Hey, welcome to Rocket Motivation. Before we start the show, I want to thank our great sponsors, Alliance Mechanical Solutions, specializing in pipe and structural crafts, and AMS Utilities, specializing in utilities construction. Both companies experienced in getting back up since 2010.
Hard times are necessary in order to establish the truth. So you know that even that you may be going through hardship, it's not going to last for long, But don't succumb to the negativity of the environment. That you know that even that you're going through some challenges, learn from it, grow. Whether from the Bible or the Quran, everybody had to go through things in life in order to make themselves better. So that's not your final destiny.
Hey everyone, this is Cate, and welcome to this week's episode of Rocket Motivation. At age 3, this week's guest watched his father get murdered. He grew up in poverty, surrounded by crime and drugs, and at age 18 was sentenced to life in prison for murder. He had an epiphany while in prison and changed his life around. After serving 14 years, he was paroled. He now works as a client advocate at the Mobile County Public Defender's Office. He's an author, an advocate for change in the criminal justice system. His is a story of second chances and redemption. Champ Napier, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you. So, Champ, let's do this. Kind of tell us where you are now in your life, where you live, what you do.
Well, right now I'm in the transitional part of experience total redemption. I'm the client advocate for the Mobile County Public Defender's Office. And to believe me, this job was a blessing that I wasn't even praying for. So now I help clients that's in the criminal justice system with my prior experience and expertise deal with reality and do not expect a miracle while incarcerated or dealing with the criminal justice system.
Right. And so kind of tell us what you actually do, like day to day. So somebody gets arrested, they're in jail, they're waiting for trial. What do you actually do?
Court appearance, jail visits, just to help consult the clients, deal with the family. After the COVID, be in the school system to tell my story, to help educate the community on the social iniquities that is rapidly destroying us.
Are there trust issues? Suppose a young guy gets arrested and he gets appointed a lawyer. Do you see sometimes that there are trust issues involved that you can then get involved in and help?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues, that people coming from our community, we do not trust the police, the people in authority, and necessarily the people of opposite race. So when I'm able to talk to a client one-on-one, I can help build that trust. And I always tell them, I don't want to know the details of your case. I'm here for moral support to help you navigate through the situation and help you make wise decisions. And we can't expect for people that's coming from a broken situation to trust the authority. And a lot of times they don't trust themselves. So if you've been betrayed and hurt the majority of your life, you don't trust yourself, so you don't expect for you to trust someone else.
Right. And that's where you come involved.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back. All right, you're growing up in Pritchard, Alabama. All right, so talk about your childhood and kind of your teenage years.
Well, growing up in Pritchard, Alabama, which I always define as the mean street of Pritchard. A.J. Cooper, the first black mayor of the city of Pritchard, he wrote the foreword to my book, Poverty and Prison, Frustration of My Past. He said that during my time of growing up, Pritchard was the third poorest city in the United States. Of course, where you see a lot of poverty, crime, social injustice, broken homes, broken families, dysfunctional families, all that, I was a product of it. So, which the lack of education was there, no strong guidance, which was easy for me to make poor decisions because I never took education serious. And unfortunately, I quit school when I was 15 years old.
So Champ, tell us about what happened that caused you to be, convicted of murder and then sentenced to jail.
Well, a few days after my 18th birthday, a drug deal went bad. I ended up killing a man and arrested and convicted for first-degree murder and sentenced to another 7 years for distribution of crack cocaine.
All right, so when you enter prison, knowing that this may be where you spend the rest of your life, what's going through your head?
Well, I think I experienced culture shock more than I can ever describe with words, because even that I realized that the majority of the people that was incarcerated had been victimized by the system and was functionally illiterate, high school dropouts from terrible situations. That's something that a lot of their stories that resonated with me. But as I started beginning to start serving time, I experienced culture shock. And when I was like 20 years old, all of my friends was in state, federal prison, strung out on drugs or getting killed. So after that particular time, I think I just developed a moral intuition to do better with myself. Even though I was incarcerated, mentally, I was becoming free.
And what do you mean by that?
But one of my favorite rappers, Tupac Shakur, he said they're going to take the man in me to conquer this insanity. So for me, man mean mine. So in all my life, I have been able to solve my situation with fighting, with fists. But when I started thinking and use my intellect to help solve the situation, I became a better and stronger individual. So being in prison is psychological warfare. The strong rule the weak and the wise rule them all.
Explain what that means.
That a person that can lift bench press 450 pounds, he might not be smart. So I can control him by using words to control him and to play off his emotion. And I'm going to give you an example. I remember one time a guy used to read the dictionary, and he called me a homo sapien. I didn't know what the word homo sapien was, and I hit him in the face. And I was the laughing stock of the prison because I had actually hit a man in the face for calling me a human being. But the way that the word sound, homo, that's the only thing I heard, and I snapped. So, even at that was a lesson for me.
I guess so you're saying like in the prison system, it's the smarter people kind of run it.
Yeah.
All right. So, but at some point you go in there and then at some point, it changes for you. The light bulb goes on. At some point, I guess you get to where, you want to change what your life is going to be.
Yeah.
What happened to get you to that point?
9 to 10 months into my incarceration, my grandmother passed. And I never forget her always begging me to get out and stay out because at this particular time, she had like 2 of her sons and 3 of her grandchildren in prison. And I was like the youngest one, so me and my grandmother was close. And she was begging me to get out of prison and stay out, that, this is not, my life is not over. I think that's the last conversation that me and her had before she passed. Then my cousin had got killed. A few months after, another one of my cousins was murdered, found dead in prison. But then when I got the call, the letter that my best friend Timo was murdered, it like weighed on me very, very hard because me and him was good friends like from the age of 6 years old coming up. And I realized that if I would have been out, most likely I would have been with him. I know I would have been involved in the same activity that he was involved in. So I started taking my situation as a blessing in disguise. So I see that during like 92, 93, that the prison system started skyrocketing. That, that the domino effect started taking place, that more and more people from Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, City of Pritchard was coming to prison. So it was like, a lot of people the gang activity was inclining. But I was on a whole different level. I was like a whole different level. I was focusing on self-improvement and bettering myself. But even though I was in the belly of the beast, I did never succumb to the negativity of the prison life. So I began to read, write, got a GED, took a trade, took all the self-help and rehabilitation programs that there was to offer. But the beauty of it, when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and it just like was life-changing. And I think I read that book like 20 or 30 times while I was incarcerated. And sometimes I still go back to it now and read it. So, that was like a strong icon for me, that if he was able to overcome the challenge and the adversity that he was able to do in the 50s and 60s, I can do it now.
Yeah, that's kind of my question that I was going to ask you is, so when, you got all this gang activity, you got all this negativity, a lot of, bad stuff going on in prison, how is it that you then are able to try to put your life on a good path?
It was hard because, that people would still try you. You got people that's constant running gangs, constant trying to manipulate the system, trying to manipulate the people that they're close to. And I never forget, one time I was into a fight and a dude told me, an old timer said, homeboys are most dangerous species. He said, watch the company that you keep. And I think at this particular time, one of my friends stole some stuff out of my locker box, but told me a guy from Birmingham did it. So I seen the dude from Birmingham and hit him in the face. But then when I was placed in solitary confinement, I realized that my homeboy did it. So the old timer that had been locked up approximately 20-some years, he didn't want to snitch on my homeboy, which was all those from Mobile, but he did let me know. He said homeboy is the most dangerous species. And that registered with me for a long time.
Well, all right, so you start getting your life going in the right path, and then you get paroled.
Yes.
All right, tell us how all that happened.
Well, I was in a fight in 2003. And like I told you, I was always getting into fights in prison. So I think I got into a fight up into a month prior to my release date. So I had got into a fight and I was transferred to a prison near the Montgomery area, which a lieutenant had retired and was working with the parole board. And he came and interviewed me. He said, he was looking across from me like me and you said, he said, Mr. Napier, he said, you never been given a chance. He said, it's one model inmate in the state of Alabama and you that person. And I looked at him and he was like, well, I'm gonna recommend that you make parole. So I thought he was just talking. I looked at him like, man, you just saying that because me and you here sitting face to face. He said, even though the state got a margin on parole, nobody had made parole in 2003. He was like in 2004. He said the state got a margin in parole 9 times out of 10. If I put you in, you're gonna make it. With my recommendation, you'll make it. He said, I know of you. I know you're good. You got a good potential. You got a good heart, but you've never been given a chance.
All right, so how did this guy know you?
When I was at St. Clair Maximum Security Prison, I was on a program called the Free by Choice program, where they used to get me out of prison and take me to speak to the jails, people that's the youth facilities, Boys and Girls Club, drug rehabilitation centers, and I had spoke at his church. And he was in the arts, and he always remembered me.
So he kind of selects you as someone's going to get paroled, and he knows that you have great potential, so he picks you.
Yeah.
That's some good fortune.
Yeah, because I know that a few weeks before I came home, a guy that had a third-degree property case was denied parole. So the chances of people making parole in 2004 was very slim. And I never forget when my mother and my aunt and my stepfather, they went to my parole hearing and they told me I was granted. I couldn't believe it. So I stayed up for like 2.5 weeks just getting myself together. It was hard to sleep because I was stressed out because I remember a guy did 19 and a half years and he was so excited that he was coming home that he died of a heart attack in his sleep. So every time I closed my eyes, I was like, I ain't finna go to sleep. I kept on thinking about that man that, he died of a heart attack because he was so excited that after he had did all that time in prison, he was going home. So I think for the last 2 days, I didn't sleep that much.
Did the other inmates know that you had gotten paroled?
No. I had an uncle that was in the same prison with me, and my cousin was there. I didn't let nobody know it because I came home Monday. I didn't tell nobody until Sunday at 10 o'clock at night after they cut the phones off because somebody had made parole a few months prior, and when they made it, they was telling everybody, they was celebrating them going home. So somebody that was upset because they was denied, and they had their family to call and said, how is this person with a robbery case made parole, but my child in here with third-degree property was denied, and they snatched his parole.
Would there be any concern that there would be other jealous inmates that might try to do something to physically harm you?
Oh, yeah, of course, because I told somebody that I was going home, and his response was, man, all the fight you done got into, how you leaving? And I said, that's why I waited until 10 o'clock at night to tell people.
Yeah, talk about the smart people rule. I mean, that you're not telling anybody that's the smart thing to do. All right, so you get out. And how many years you been in prison now?
I had been in prison 14 years and 9 months.
Okay, so you get out, and I know eventually you get this great job offer at the public defender's office doing what you're doing now. But before you got there, I mean, how was it?
Ooh, man, it was hard because it was hard to find who gonna hire a person that have never worked. I had never had a resume, so I had never pushed the time clock. So it was terrible because the people that knew me from my past, they was expecting the same thing out of me. And I think that one time a guy was close to me said, man, look, it ain't no sense you trying to be good out here. You did that while you was in prison. You faked it till you make it. Man, let me give you some dope before you get on your feet. I was like, no, man, I can't take that chance, man. Too many people going to prison and too many people that selling drugs, I think they snitching.
Well, that's a lot of pressure too. I mean, you are out. And I guess a lot of the people that you've known from your past, they're like, oh, come on, man, let's just get back into it. So how was it that you pushed them off?
I have to reflect back on what I learned. And the Holy Quran is the book of guidance that I follow, what the Muslim follow. It said that Allah would assign an intimate enemy to you. So I realized that sometimes that, the people that's close to you, they can be your enemy. Because they know your weakness. They know how to get to you. they know how to tempt you and to get you off the straight path. So, and right now, even that I've been out nearly 18 years, that anybody that suggests that I do anything wrong, in my conscious mind, I consider them as an enemy and a threat to what I'm trying to accomplish in life.
Well, and that kind of brings us to a lesson. I mean, tell the listeners how important it is, people you're close with, or surround yourself with good people, how important that is.
It's extremely important because that I think that if people don't have the same morals to go and the same aspiration that you do, that you're wasting time. That's what they could consider as dead weight.
And so eventually you get this job at the public defender's office. How did it come about? I guess that was a position that was created for you, wasn't it?
It was actually created for me. And like I said, it was a blessing that I wasn't asking for because I'm a part of this group, Faith in Action Alabama, and we was advocating to start up the public defender's office. So the judge that was over the energy defense working with us to help start the public defender's office came to one of our leaders, to our leadership meetings to introduce us to the executive director of the public defender's office. And I was up there speaking, and we was talking about the public defender's office, the anti-gun violence program, and I was like, it ain't over until we win. We have a lot of social injustice in our community. We have a lot of gun violence. We have a lot of people that's just going through the system. A lot of people just lost that need some guidance. So I always say it ain't over until we win. So, even though that I got the position as the client advocate, I still realize that I got to work hard to keep this position. I got to work hard to keep this office strong. So, I got to stay focused.
And tell us, how much satisfaction do you get out of your job and doing what you do?
I get great satisfaction because I realize that it's not only that I'm helping someone else, I'm helping myself as well, and I'm helping other people to build trust and confidence in themselves. So a lot of times when I go to the jail, if they know of me or heard my story or seen me on the news or seen my book, it's like, man, they be wanting to talk, they be wanting to gravitate. I was over at the jail like 3 weeks ago, and I walked in, and one of the guys started beating on the window, told his attorney, said, hey, I need to talk to that man right there. And I was looking like, I don't know you.
Well, but that's got to give you a great feeling when people that are in the system know of you and they want it. They want your help.
Yeah, and that's what it is. People are hurting. We crying for help. They are crying for a life jacket. So I extend the arm to them. I don't have no problem talking to anybody about my situation or how they can better themselves.
Right. It's really something because, based on what you went through, you see these teenagers or young men or that are starting in this, and I guess you can see kind of yourself, and so you're sitting, you want to help them.
Yeah.
Well, Chip, what have you learned about yourself through your life?
I learned that, and I tell all people, the young people that I talk to, hard times are necessary in order to establish the truth. So that even that you may be going through hardship, it's not going to last for long, Meditate, think about the situation, and see how can you improve the quality of your life. Because at one point, before I got to the point where I'm employed now, I was working for minimum wage, and I was like 45 years old. And I was telling somebody, I was like, how am I going to tell a young person to work for minimum wage, but I won't work for it?
Well, and that's the thing. I think part of the culture is, nobody wants to work for minimum wage.
No, but that we are not, like they say, a microwave generation. We want that instant success. We want instant gratification. We want everything to be given us within 30 seconds or more, which is not going to happen.
Yeah, we want that microwave popcorn done in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, we want a mansion within 30 minutes.
Yeah, Champ, what advice would you give like some young adults who are going down the wrong path?
I tell young people all the time to get education now because education can enhance your life and help you build your identity and your personality and your character. And please avoid a criminal conviction because a criminal conviction will hinder your life and have you hopeless and homeless.
And so what advice would you give to somebody, say some people that have made some mistakes, but they're getting a second chance in life? What do you tell that person?
I tell those people, don't succumb to the negativity of their environment, that you know that even that you're going through some challenges, learn from it, grow. Everybody that you know you read throughout the history of time, whether from the Bible or the Quran, everybody had to go through things in life in order to make themselves better. So, you know, that's not your final destiny.
But it's got to be hard, isn't it? Like when you got out of prison and you start working for minimum wage, I mean, how hard was it not to be tempted to go back to the lifestyle that you had? But I mean, I guess there's something, I mean, internally, you must have just made up your mind, I'm not going back to this.
I ain't going back. Only way I go back to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this. One time I filmed a documentary on my life, Redemption Beyond My Past. And I went back to a prison that I had served 9.5 years of my life at in Fountain and Atmore. And some of the guards that knew me, and they was like, man, there's nowhere in the world you coming back. They was like, all the trouble you got to get out of here, you coming back. And I said, man, this is how I'm supposed to come, dressed in all black and try to help somebody realize that they can come. So he was a captain at that particular time. And he called the ward and said, you know, Chris Champ Napier is trying to come back up here to speak in the chaplain. And he was like, yeah. He said, I want to see him. And that time, man, it was over 300 inmates came out to see the documentary. And the warden, he came, he sat up in the front row, the sister warden, he said, you ain't changed. He said, you spoke some harsh words when you was in here and you speaking them down. But he said, they hard, but I got to respect it. Because he said, you standing on truth.
Right. All right. And Champ, let me broaden it out because, you know, the podcast, Rocket Motivation, it's all about, you know, I want to have guests on here like you that have faced adversity and come through it. So kind of just in general, people that are just going through adversity, having some tough times. What advice do you give them?
Find a way or find someone, connect with somebody can help you. Like Booker T. Washington said, cast down your bucket where you are and pull yourself up from your bootstraps. So wherever you at in life right now, if you're going through hard times, do a moral assessment of that situation and see how, by any means, can you get out of it.
I think, and I hear that oftentimes on some of the guests, you just gotta find a way. You gotta find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, of course, the problem with that is, I mean, that's so easy to say. It's so easy to say, yeah, you just gotta find. But in reality, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about. I know you've published a book, and you got another one that's almost to be published. Tell us about your first book.
Poverty in Prison, Follow the Frustration of My Past. It was a book that I had began to write. After my 10 years of being in prison, I was denied parole a second time. Rod, I had so much stress on me, I couldn't go to sleep. I don't know, my family was stressed out. So at that point, I thought I was going to die in prison. So I never forget, I went to the store. I had a few dollars on the store. I bought 6 legal pads. And I told my best friend that was my comrade, I said, man, I'm going to write my story. I'm going to leave my legacy behind as a changed man. I said, so I read a lot of books about people in prison, so I need to leave my legacy as a changed man as well. So it was therapeutic for me to write the book because when I went through all the hardship, the challenges that I had to overcome, the first 17 pages of the book, I started crying. So it was hard. But that's why I said it was therapy for me to do it as well, because I wanted to leave my legacy behind as a changed individual and show society that I'm not the same person I was when I was 18, sentenced to life in prison. And to help some other young person realize that I did enough time for everybody in the state of Alabama, and there's enough inmates in the state of Alabama doing enough time for every young person in America to do the right thing.
And then your other book, Servant of the People. I'm looking at a copy of it right here in front of me. Tell me about that.
So that book there is, I'm hoping to launch during the month of April. That is a book of a short, fast read of some things that I have did on the positive side since I've been out. As far as encouraging returning citizens to get their voters right, establishing the public defender's office, changing the name of a street to a neighborhood hero, Cozy Brown, and where I'm at now. And I wrote a chapter called Blessed and Unbreakable, because, you know, even though that I have went through some hard times, I still consider myself as blessed and unbreakable. So that's what serving other people is about, you know, because everybody want to attach to poverty and prison. But yeah, I was in poverty and prison, but now I want to show you prosperity after poverty and prison.
Well, one thing you've done since you've been out, I mean, it certainly hasn't been just all about you. I mean, you are doing everything you can to better your community, your environment, and people around you.
Yes.
Why is it that you want to do that?
Because I feel that if I would have had the positive guidance, the positive motivation that somebody just to motivate me and said, look, this is not the right way. You know, I had some people to talk to me, but they were doing the same thing that I was doing. But somebody who have been through it, lived experience, and still going through the pain. Like I was telling a brother the other night, I said, man, one time I was shooting so bad, I was going to speaking engagement at these different functions. I was driving an old car, 67 Oldsmobile, didn't have an air conditioner in it. I would get there 10 minutes early if I can dress in the parking lot. Or I would come there 10 minutes late for people won't see me dressing in the parking lot. So I would be driving down the street with nothing with a T-shirt on until I get in the event and I'll put my jacket on, put my suit coat in, and walk in.
Yeah, because listeners that don't live down here on the Gulf Coast of Alabama, it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
All right. So, Champ, if somebody wants to buy your books or follow you, I know you got a website. What's the website? www.chrischampnapier.com. And also you can contact me on Facebook as Chris Champ Napier on Facebook. All right. So, Champ, what we do is on all my shows, man, I give the guests the parting shot. But this is where I ask you, man, you dig deep and you take us home right now. What else can you give the listeners?
I think I want to give the listeners, especially the young people, that let them know that education is the passport to the future and that it ain't over until we win. You know, I'm dedicated to changing the culture, the mindset of the people. So I just need people to unite and organize with me. Let's save the people.
Champ, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for coming in, man.
Likewise, Ron.
What a great episode with Champ Napier. He's gone from serving a life sentence for murder to parole to his job as a client advocate at the Mobile County Public Defender's Office. It's a story of redemption and second chances. Next week's guest is Austin Luke. He got COVID that was so bad, his only chance of survival was bilateral lung transplants. He's got a great story. You're not going to want to miss this. See you next week. So thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsors, Alliance Mechanical Solutions and AMS Utilities, both companies helping build the Gulf Coast since 2010. If you want to learn more about these companies, visit their website, www.alliancemechanicalsolutions.com. If you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.